to the next panel on investing in the region. And I'd like to ask actually one of them is going to be virtual, but the other two are here, Yannis, Matsis and Omiros Sarikas, to join me on the panel. And in principle, yes, we start with Ioannis Smyrlis, Secretary General for International Economic Affairs at the Foreign Affairs Ministry in Greece. You have the floor, if it works.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here today and an honor to address such a distinguished audience. As many of you know, Greece has restructured its economy, rationalized its public finances, and boosted its competitiveness over the last decade. It has reoriented itself to global markets, attracted record foreign investment, and achieved record export growth. At the same time, Greece is fast becoming a new regional hub for energy, logistics, and innovation. This year, Greece's economy is expected to grow at a robust 4 to 5% rate, following a better than expected 8.3% rebound in 2021. Which represents one of the fastest growth rates in Europe. Economic sentiment is at its highest point since 2000, and unemployment rate is at its lowest levels in 10 years. Last year, Greece also posted record exports of 40 billion euro and saw record foreign direct investment almost 5 billion worth, the largest FDI inflow since 2002, confirming that the country is on the right track and in a dynamic growth phase. According to surveys which track investors' attitudes, Greece is rated among the top 10 investment destinations in Europe. This reflects the wide range of attractive opportunities available in the Greek market, as well as the coordinated efforts of the last several years to create a competitive and positive business environment in Greece. Ladies and gentlemen, currently, economies around the world are working their way back from the contraction caused by the coronavirus pandemic. For Greece, this heralds a new era, framed by the country's ambitious Green Deal and Greece 2.0. In particular, the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, Greece 2.0, that will create new growth industries by channeling 57 billion euro into green energy projects, digitalization, health, and education. Greece 2.0 is focused on realizing fully the potential of the digital age and green energy and aims to secure sustainable growth far into the future. Remarkable reforms have been implemented to reshape Greece's market and public administration, so as to make it more competitive and business-friendly. Some of these initiatives promote state-owned assets and investment opportunities in targeted sectors. More specifically, over the last decades, Greece has greatly upgraded its energy infrastructure, both within Greece and with neighboring countries, and is fast becoming an energy hub for Southeast Europe and the Eastern Mediterranean. In this vein, Greece is welcoming a range of energy-related projects and attracting investments in clean energy, e-mobility, and circular economy. Our vision for a green sustainable future transcends all aspects of public policy and extends to technology, smart agricultural production, and sustainable tourism, where we expect to see significant activity both in the short and the long term. Technology and innovation are also integral to the digital transformation envisioned in Greece 2.0. Greece's tech sector is already attracting significant investments, and please allow me to name a few. Recently, JP Morgan acquired a 49% stake in Greek fintech Viva Wallet, a leader in European cloud-based payment, in a deal that reportedly valued the company at 2 billion euro. During the pandemic, tech giant Microsoft invested in a new 1 billion euro data center venture in Greece, and pharmaceuticals company Pfizer created a tech R&D hub in the northern Greek city of Thessaloniki. The planned digital interconnection, CME-WE3, linking 39 cable landing stations in 33 countries through high-capacity submarine optical cable, will make Greece a regional digital hub and support the further development of international collaboration with Greek tech. Technology and innovation will also become increasingly important in smart and sustainable agricultural production. For Greece, this is a priority, given the leading role food products play in the country's export profile. Furthermore, tourism industry in Greece creates a springboard for the future through responsible and innovative approaches. This also opens new opportunities for investors, with projects in Greece that upgrade and rebrand hotels, emerge new travel destinations, extending at the same time the tourist season. Investment in the sector tripled in 2020, and since 2019, some 150 new hotels, most in the 4- and 5-star category, have opened their doors around the country, with dozens more in development. Ladies and gentlemen, moreover, I would like to highlight that the substantial reform concerning the economic diplomacy. At the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we incorporated under a single and coherent structure all competent units for economic extroversion. Furthermore, we established the gateway of extroversion, including Enterprise Greece, our official trade and investment promotion agency, the Export Credit Insurance Organization, as well as of the existing network of embassies and offices of economic and commercial affairs, which are by definition the antennas of our system abroad. Current government strategy sets ambitious goals to boost foreign investment in Greece and Greek exports abroad. By 2023, we aim to double foreign direct investment in Greece to a target of 4% of GDP and increase exports to 48% of GDP, up from 37% in 2019. To conclude, despite the current global geopolitical uncertainty, Greece has become a secure investment destination with enormous potential in Southeastern Europe and Eastern Mediterranean, while remaining a pillar of peace, security, stability, and prosperity in the broader region. The growth momentum is back on track with impressive outcomes. In this vein, we adapt targeted measures and policies in order to ensure that this growth will be viable and sustainable in the future. We invite you to be a part of this exciting new era for Greece. Thank you very much for your attention.
I think you have to go fairly quickly, Secretary General. So maybe you could just say one more word about the impact of the war in Ukraine. I mean, it's just another shock, but anything specific on that worries you about the outlook for Greece?
You know, a war is always a war, and especially when it takes place in Europe, it's obvious that it's something that will affect the global economy, something that will affect the European economy, so also the Greek one. But what is really important for us is that we remain stable, is that we are not so exposed in Russia and Ukraine as of exports and of investments. So we continue at the same track. We are asking, as Greece, with our Prime Minister, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, and the whole south of Europe, as you saw the previous days, we're asking of a European solution about energy, a European solution about economy. It's a problem that we will face all together. And I'm really optimistic that in order to go to the next steps, European Union will stay together, will stay with a common response to the problem. Of course, we are against the war. Of course, we are against any invasion and change of the borders. And of course, we are just behind the United Nations and the stability all over the world. Greece was pretty clear about this from the beginning and will remain at the same line until the end. Moreover, I would like just to finish by saying that in the whole region, Greece is a stable democratic country that is an old member of the European Union and NATO, and that is the main pillar of stability all over our region. This is the role that we have, this is the role that we want to have, and this is how we will proceed also to the next critical months about economy and critical months about peace.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. And now we turn to Yannis Matsis from Invest Cyprus. Please.
Thank you. A very good afternoon, distinguished guests, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Very happy to be here amongst you today. My short presentation today will focus on Cyprus as an international business center within the European Union, and also on investment opportunities that we see on the island. Let me start with a snapshot of our beautiful island. I'm addressing mostly the non-Cypriots and non-Greeks here. So located in the Eastern Mediterranean, below the south coast of Turkey and west of Israel and Lebanon. Cyprus is a small island of 880,000 inhabitants, 4 major cities on the island. It is part of the European Union, and it has adopted the euro as its currency. It enjoys beautiful weather, and with in excess of 300 days of sunshine. The official language is Greek, but everybody on the island speaks English as well, as a second language, pretty well command of the English language. Now, we've already heard about the GDP. Cyprus GDP outperformed the rest of its European peers both in 2020 and 2021. In 2020, the Cyprus GDP dropped by 5.1% because of the pandemic, whereas the rest of the average European Union dropped by 6.1%. And in 2021, Cyprus outperformed by growing its GDP by 5.7% against an average of 4.1% for the rest of Europe. Now, over the last few years, especially the last year, we have been observing a plethora of companies that are looking to set up offices in Cyprus and send their own staff, their own professionals to live and work on the island. And I want to address the main reasons why, from my position that I see by speaking to these companies, what is attracting them on the island. To begin with, and very importantly, a very attractive tax system. Our corporate tax rate is 12.5%. There is no capital gains tax on corporates, and there is an exceptional network of bilateral tax treaties, with quite often being the case of no withholding taxes at all in cross-border payments. That is a big advantage for companies. A lot of technology companies that set up in the island can take advantage of an intellectual property tax rebate, and which brings their effective tax to 2.5% on given a tax discount on royalties paid because of international of intellectual property. So very attractive tax regime. On individuals, the government aiming to attract foreign residents on the island has passed a lot of income tax deductions. Individuals that are non-domicile, which effectively means non-Cypriots by origin, they have a 50% tax discount for a period of 10 years on any income above 50, so long as their income is above 55,000. That means that the effective personal tax is close to 12.5%. Again, so you can imagine 12.5% corporate tax, 12.5% income tax. Very competitive for Cyprus. Now, it's part of the government's vision and strategy 2035, as we call it, to try and make Cyprus an international hub for doing business, for companies and people to relocate on the island. As such, recently, they revised the immigration laws that make it very easy for companies, especially technology companies, but not only, to bring their non-European staff to Cyprus and their families, their spouses to Cyprus, and very easy for them to be issued working visas and residence permit. So that's another big attraction of the island relative to our competitors. Low cost of doing business. Our average hourly wage rate in Cyprus is below the average of the European Union. The non-wage labor cost is also below the average of the rest of the European Union. There is very competitive low commercial real estate rental yields relative to the European Union, always I'm talking about, and generally competitive property prices. Also, the supporting services that you can get on the island, for example, from accountants and lawyers, are exceptionally high quality, which is very attractive to the foreign companies that establish there. It's given in English and is given at a very low cost rate, relative again to the rest of our European peers, which often they do not give the service in English, they cannot, and it's much more expensive than what you would get in Cyprus. Cost of living, you can see here that also, so it's not only the business cost that is low that I addressed in the previous slide, but cost of living, you can see here that even amongst our European competitors in trying to attract talent, we have the lowest cost of living for individuals of the competitors here. Now, to begin with, being part of the European Union, we offer a gateway to investment managers and investment funds to establish their jurisdiction in Cyprus and passport their services to the rest of Europe. So that's also a big attraction of the island. We have the common law, which is very attractive for companies, but we also have European law and European regulation, of course, given that we are part of Europe. Lots of private schools, all of which teach in English, and all of which offer international courses such as GCSEs, etc. So easy for families, again, to move there. Everybody on the island speaks English. That makes it easy for people that relocate on the island to find their way around. Exceptional weather and a very high quality of life. Okay, now let me address quickly where we see strong investment interest from abroad. In the area of companies wanting to relocate on the island, all kinds of companies really, but mostly technology companies is where we observe a lot of interest and where we see the most positive results. In the area of direct investments from abroad, we see interest in tourism and healthcare, in tourism and hospitality, in healthcare, in education, and also in renewable energy. That's the main areas. It's not an exclusive list, but this is the main areas where we see interest from foreign investment managers, investors wanting to invest on the island. And finally, we see Cyprus being an attractive jurisdiction for fund managers, with fund managers establishing their base there to passport their services into the rest of Europe. Now, it's important when we communicate to companies, that we want to bring them on the island. It's important to be fair, to be balanced, to be transparent, so they know what they will find when they come on the island and there is no surprises. So we do have some of our own challenges as well. To begin with, actually a very big challenge is the low airport connectivity. We have very few direct flights to European cities, but Athens, London, and a few other European capitals, we don't have daily flights anywhere else, making it a very difficult place to get to and to get out of. So that's one of the disadvantages. Our banking services are not at all advanced, nowhere close to international or European best practices, especially when it comes to areas of financing, of efficiency of opening bank accounts, and of other banking services. Despite the bank's major efforts to upgrade their services, we're still quite behind what I would call European best standards. Another negative. So our AML reputation, anti-money laundering reputation, unfortunately reputation takes years to build, gets destroyed in a day. We destroyed ours, and it's still evident when we meet and discuss with foreigners. Despite, I have to say, I am a banker, the banks have gone into major overhaul of their policies, processes, and AML standards that I would actually argue now we are in international best practice standard levels. However, we still are not recognized as such from abroad because of our negative past reputation on this issue. Another disadvantage, which is not listed as a bullet here, is liquidity on the island. For investors that want to invest, really the investable sizes, the bite sizes are quite small. You cannot find big investments on the island. And it's also illiquid. It's easy to get in with small investments, but it's not that easy to get out given the amount of interest for small investments that is not as appealing to big investment managers. Some success stories of some companies that established their base on the island and that managed to, that are active on the island. I also want to share with you anecdotally, just out of interest to see the unfortunate events of the war in Ukraine and Russia. Actually seem to be strangely benefiting Cyprus. Over the last 2 weeks, and this is anecdotal, right? But I think it's an interesting piece of information. We have been approached by 4 American companies. One of them is a Fortune 500 American company that have between them 1,500 staff in Russia, all of them technologists. So they are technology companies that employ staff in Russia because you get good quality of technology personnel in Russia. And given the war, they have difficulties in paying them. And therefore, they asked us to help them relocate them to Cyprus. So we have organized and are organizing charter flights to fly them over to Cyprus via the air routes that are open, issue them residence visa and working visa on arrival. And this, with their families, will establish base in Cyprus. Now, it may sound nothing for the non-Cypriots amongst you, but 1,500 people is huge for the island. As I said earlier, we are only 880,000 population. So that's just something to share. Also, I want to address an issue that is also very concerning to me, which is inflation. This is not specific to Cyprus. This is global, a global issue affecting everybody. But I do fear, and I am very concerned about hyperinflation and about the possibility that inflation gets out of control, both because of the war in Ukraine, Russia, and of course gas, oil, and wheat prices. Also because of COVID and the supply chain constraints that we've seen during COVID. But also remember that all the central banks have been pumping liquidity into the system since 2008, since the Lehman crisis, both the US and the European central banks. And there's a lot of liquidity in the system, which doesn't help especially when people lose confidence. So inflation is a concern, and I'm not here talking about necessarily Cyprus, but everything else. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. If I can help give any more information or explain the services we offer as Invest Cyprus, feel free to approach me after the networking lunch, and it will be a pleasure to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, Omiros Sarikas.
Thank you. So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to congratulate Economist and the London Stock Exchange for hosting us, and to say that although we're going to present about Greece, we have much love for Cyprus. One of the things that actually we love about Cyprus is that you are one of the two countries that they are part of the British Commonwealth, you and Malta, and you're also part of the European Union. And you have English law, and for those of you that are in the fund business, after Brexit, we don't have to run to Luxembourg to open funds. CySEC has a regulatory framework, one of the few countries in Europe that have a full framework. So congratulations. Today we're going to give you a brief because I stand between you and your lunch. So I'm going to give you our version of the Brookstreet brief. Our journey started when we came to Greece back in 2013, and by 2016 we partnered with an asset which we successfully exited during Brexit, during discussions of Grexit, and we managed to make 57 times money. After that, we built the first, that we are aware of, London private pot to invest in the country. And ever since, we've done 20 rounds over 5 assets and 6 to be announced in 72 hours. And those assets are growing and they are thriving. What have we learned? First of all, we would like to share the positive notion that Greece is on a positive trajectory. Greece is thriving, and the last news that we have over the last few days say that despite COVID, despite the pandemic, and despite the Russian war, Greece will continue to thrive, what we call resilient growth. I believe it was addressed earlier on. Greeks managed to survive 10 years of a crisis, they can survive that. So, what we love about Greece so far? The FDI has increased 10 times, for those that haven't observed it. Second, here we can see EBRD participating, and much to their credit, EBRD, EIB, and EIF have created a very successful and active local private equity and venture capital ecosystem, and I can recognize some of its leaders in the audience. In addition, the international funds are investing or co-investing with the local national champions. And in the end, we also see the corporate FDI. The triplex of activity creates growth and a notion of trust. And that's what is happening right now. We started trusting Greece for leading us in Europe to growth. Everybody was quoting surveys today. We quoted a recent one, which mentions that despite the crisis, managers in Greece or those investing in Greece remain largely positive. In regards to the war, there are many scenarios, and leading people around the world, leading think tanks, are playing scenario analysis, what could happen. And none of us can read the magic ball. What we do know is that inflation can take 3 ways. I would only like to remind everybody that when you invest, you're not a trader, it's a strategic long-term allocation. In England, we call it patient capital. So we need to invest in Greece rather than trade Greece. And I think that's strategically important to get right. As we're looking into the inflation, the terrorism in Ukraine, and also what's happening with the pandemic, we also have a number of challenges that we're facing in-house. But I'm pleased to say that we have observed a number of structural reforms. Last year, we actually hired for the first time from the UK, and using the tools at our disposal, we relocated CEOs and managers from England and from Europe back to Greece. And that for us was the first time that we tried that successfully. So we believe we're going to have a phenomenal year despite everything that is going on. I believe that we're going to have a very good summer. And my data says there are going to be 14 to 16 flights directly from the United States per day. So if that happens, we're going to go back to 2019 levels. In the last 72 hours, I want to bring to your attention, despite what everything, the doom and gloom stories, Amazon was speaking about fascinating progress in Greece just a day before our drinks yesterday, and Morningstar upgraded the country. So we believe that Greece right now can be positioned actually as a safe haven for investors. We are in Europe, we have attractive opportunities, an EU framework, European FX, and quality of life. And we have survived crises before. So we think we can position Greece as a country for resilient growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got a few minutes for comments or questions. A very small one I'd like to put to Yannis. Matsis, you talked about low airport connectivity in Cyprus. Are you suggesting building a new airport outside Nicosia?
No, I'm not suggesting that. The fact of the low airport connectivity, I believe, is related to the small population size, and also the fact that tourism is only concentrated on the tourist season, which is quite a long season. But when it's the summer season, we have more direct flights, of course, from the tourist destinations only. But because of the small size and the small amount of It's business travel that happens to find itself in Cyprus. The demand is not there. Also speaking to pilots, what they are telling me is that actually Cyprus is not very profitable for the airlines because it's tucked far away in the Mediterranean compared with England. It's a 5-hour flight. It's a transatlantic flight almost, right? And the cost of petrol is very high. So, actually it's more competitive to make a flight to Malta maybe from London than to Cyprus in terms of and offer it to the population. So I think that's the main reason why the connectivity is there. It's just demand and supply.
Okay. And Cyprus Airways?
Yeah, okay, but it's demand and supply.
That's demand and supply. All right.
You cannot subsidize. You can subsidize. The government can actually, but unless you subsidize, then if it's not profitable for the airline to have a direct flight to Paris, they won't.
No, I understand the point. Any last quick questions from anybody in the audience? Yes, over here.
Yes, for Mr. Matsis. First, I want to make one correction. You said on your presentation that Cyprus has 4 cities. You should say 6 cities, but unfortunately, because of the Turkish invasion, we had 2 occupied cities as well. The other 2 points, as an ex-CEO of the Hellenic Bank, you said that the level of the banking services in Cyprus is not adequate, let's say, is not of the level of in the United Kingdom. What did you do during your presidency as ex-CEO in the Hellenic Bank, alongside the other CEOs? And the final question is about the tourism industry. That is one of the most important industries in Cyprus. I read a few times during the last few months that we have a problem with the labor. How the Cyprus government is facing this problem?
Yes, on the issue of banking services, unfortunately, change is not within a day. But how we try to address is by training, upskilling the current staff through training and education, and also by hiring more competent staff that maybe have international experience to try and upgrade the banking services. But it takes time. Even during the 3.5 years I was in the bank, we couldn't make the change to the, if you like, where we would like to go within 3.5 years. The second issue, I do agree with you. We have a big problem with labor, especially in the tourist industry, because unfortunately during the period of COVID we lost a lot of staff that was foreigners that left Cyprus, and now all of the hotels, generally the hospitality industry and the food and beverage is actually suffering. The government has revised its immigration policies, and it is now easier for non-European citizens as well to come and work on the island. Again, though, it will take time, to communicate it and to advertise it and get people to start moving on the island. But I do agree it's a big problem, a big headache for the hoteliers especially.
Fine. Well, thank you very much to both our panelists.
Thank you.
And our third panelist who's left.